Welcome to the Mental Playbook podcast. I'm here with Samantha Whiteman, former college basketball athlete and founder of Arena Transfer. Hi, Samantha. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. I'm good. Can you share a little bit about your journey from high school to playing D2 basketball in college?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am from small town Ohio. So had to work pretty hard to even get seen and noticed by a lot of schools. Ended up again playing D2. I played in Nashville for 2 years, which was super cool. I just wasn't seeing the success that I wanted. So I actually transferred to Thomas More, which is in Kentucky. And I was on a national championship team that year, and then we were national runner-ups my senior year. So that was amazing. I had a really great experience there. And then after that, I really had no idea what I was going to do with my life. I thought I knew, which is what was crazy. But I really went through like 2 years of refining, okay, like who am I? What do I want to do? How do I want to get involved in business? And now, I really try to impact athletes through arena transfer and what I do in helping athletes find their purpose after sport. But also, I lead a pretty large financial organization as well, and almost our entire team is former athletes. So yeah, it's kind of like a summary of my journey through all of that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And one of the big things you brought up is identity beyond the sport. And how do you define that for yourself, identity beyond sports, and what did that discovery look like for you?
Yeah, great question. I would say for me personally, a lot of it is rooted in my faith. I think that's what got me through a lot of that. Just knowing like, yes, I'm an athlete, but ultimately I'm a child of God and my worth is so much more than that. So that's where I really found that identity. But in terms of, finding who I was outside of that, I had to realize like my identity wasn't a title. My identity was my character essentially. So, I'm a leader. I'm somebody who helps others. Like I'm somebody who like I challenge others to go be champions in life. Like that's what I do. I inspire other people to go do things. So it was more so just channeling that into what I say a different arena. That's why it's called arena transfer, because it was channeling that leadership and that charisma from basketball to life after sport and in business. So I really had to find my identity and okay, who actually am I, not just what do I do and what's my title.
Yeah. And so how has faith played a role in the community you're building with Arena Transfer?
Oh, it's been massive. So again, a lot of what I do, it's helping athletes transition into business. In this example, it's more like the financial space and sales. And it's been really, really powerful because like we have Bible studies every Monday through Friday morning. We have a lot of athletes who are also trying to find that. And a lot of times, business is hard. You run a podcast, you're trying to navigate that space a little bit. I always say you're like trying to build the plane as it's on the runway and it's about to take off. Like you have to create and maintain that momentum, and you're going to get punched in the face a lot. You're going to get a lot of no's. It's just like basketball. You're going to miss a ton of shots. And to me, faith has been that one consistent thing that I can always lean on no matter what, because it's like the one guarantee. It's the one thing that's always there. So really just having faith in the fact that, I'm not doing necessarily what I told myself I'm called to. I'm doing what I know God has me called to. And if it's his plans for my life, then I can't fail. So that's kind of the perspective I take with that.
Yeah. So Bronny James shared a month ago, how he wants to feel like he belongs. So how do you create a sense of community for athletes who felt isolated or just kind of alone during their sport and now after their career?
Yeah. Yeah. Great question. That is a great question. I would say, the biggest thing with belonging is you have to first figure out back to what you first asked, like who are you and what's your role, right? You can go be on a team and you might be a point guard, but they have you at the post and you're going to feel like you don't belong because you don't feel like you serve any sort of purpose. Like as human beings, I feel like we have to have some sort of fulfillment. So, when it comes to the actual sport itself, it's really if you feel like you don't belong, you're probably not at it. Like I tell every person, I wish that I would have pursued the school that wanted me more, not the school that I felt like I wanted, because I think my experience would have been completely different. So just going somewhere where you are loved and you feel that, and then also making sure you're in the role that best fits you. So you have to find yourself in order to feel it. Then as a leader in business, like really creating that just comes from knowing your team's strength, right? As a leader, you have to get really good at placing people in the right role and making sure they're actually doing what God blessed them with, right? Like if somebody's super analytical, I'm not going to go put them in like a leadership role where all they do is sales and talk to people. I'm going to put them behind the computer and have them do analytics. So both is just a matter of navigating again who you are and really leveraging your strengths, but also like still working on your weaknesses.
Yeah. Is there a story or experience you've had with a client that reminds you of why you do your work?
Actually, yeah. And what's crazy, oh man, there's so many. I would say one that I have that's really cool, and it's been recently. We have an agent on our team, and he played lacrosse. He was also a national champion. Didn't really have a super deep faith at this point, and also just was like doing door-to-door sales. Had no idea like what his purpose was, and he has come into what we do and just absolutely killed it, like crushed it, leads a whole team now. His I was talking to his mom not too long ago, and she was like, I just saw something in him light up that I haven't even seen since he got his first D1 offer when he was in high school. So I would say that was probably the coolest experience of somebody I've witnessed kind of seeing that transition. And then other thing I would say, we held an event called, it was just an arena transfer meetup actually last summer in Columbus. And we ended up having like 30 current and former pro and college athletes there. And it was so cool because everybody got in the room and like immediately started bonding. Like the guys were like chest bumping each other. We all went out to dinner and had some drinks at night. And it was just so cool to see like, again, that same team dynamic come up just because athletes got in the same room. So those are probably two of my favorite stories to tell so far.
Yeah. So we've brought up different challenges like finding your identity, belonging, and just like that transition. What are some other specific challenges that you see in athletes transitioning out of their sports that arena transfer is trying to fill?
Yeah, I would say the biggest things that I see athletes struggling with too, it's not just one thing. It's really, so we have a motto that's kind of like our five F's, and it sounds kind of silly, but they're real, right? It's faith, family, finance, fitness, fun. Like really, those are the five main things that are super, super important in life as you go through. So we take a much different approach. Like, yeah, you can come do what we do and you're going to be successful. You're going to see money and you're going to see that come in. But if I make you, if I take you further away from God, if I make you a worse daughter, worse son, worse husband, worse wife, you're not having fun and you're in a terrible, spot in your fitness, did I really make you better? No. I think the biggest thing athletes struggle with is they don't know how to kind of live life without somebody telling them what to do because they've always had a coach being there to do that. So you're not just going to come into what we do and get good at one thing. We're going to give you the resources you need to stay in shape. We're going to give you every resource you need to be good financially. We're going to help you find your purpose. You're going to have community. So it's kind of hard because I want to say there's just one, two, three things that we do to help athletes be successful after sport. But it's kind of all the things compiled you have as an athlete kind of given to you. We try to make that up and make that transition easier.
Yeah. And athletes are going to lose that kind of structure, after their last game. So what are some specific tools that helped you build a new routine for retired athletes?
Yeah, number one is making sure you're staying fit, but reminding yourself you don't have to overdo it like you did in sport. A
Yeah.
lot of athletes get caught in, if I'm not dead, if I'm not, about to pass out, it wasn't a good workout. So, number one, start your day with that every day because being an athlete, it's going to drive you mentally insane if you don't work out. So that's a non-negotiable. I think number two, for me personally, is giving myself a greater purpose, starting my day with my devotional. Realistically, after that, something that I really live by is try things a lot until you fail. It's not necessarily a routine, but you have to just take massive action to find something. Where a lot of athletes get stuck is they go get a job because someone told them to and they didn't know what to do. And maybe it takes them 2 years to take some risk and get out of that. Out of school, I tell athletes, start the business you wanted, fail it. It's going to fail probably two or three times. Just go after it as hard as you can. Once you find that purpose, though, then you can create a schedule around it. So I wouldn't really say that's like a regimen routine, but what I would do is I would meet as many people as possible, build your network, and then try and fail as many businesses as you can until you find something that works for you.
Right. I like that. What advice would you give to college athletes who are kind of unsure of what's next after playing at the college level?
Yeah, I would say start thinking about it earlier than most people do, especially with NIL money now. I think so many athletes, like I was just talking to somebody and they were saying how their team is making on average $500,000 as a women's basketball team this year. Truth is, a lot of these girls are going to get punched in the face because whether they go pro or they go into the real world, you're not going to see near as much money.
Yeah.
So number one for college athletes still playing, figuring out what's next, start diving into your passions outside of sports now. Even the same advice, start businesses early if you can, just side hustles, build a brand, right? A brand is really just a fancy way to say, it's like a fancy way to showcase your character.
Yeah.
Your brand will outlast you no matter what you do. I don't care if you're an NAI athlete, D3 athlete, D1 athlete. Having a brand is going to set you up for life now with being in a digital world. So build a brand, start businesses, build your network, just meet people and ask them what they do. Ask if you can shadow them. Ask if you can get around them. Really just try to build something that isn't reliant on your sport when you can.
Yeah. Definitely think presence is a good start. What are some examples of businesses and brands that athletes have created after their sport?
Yeah, great question. Athletes go across the board. I know some athletes who have just stuck to like basic product, like apparel, merch, things like that. And they do well, but that's also what we call like a red ocean market. It's really hard to compete in a market like that
Yeah.
unless you already have a massive presence. I see a lot of athletes killing the best path I would ever tell an athlete to go in, no matter what, to start is sales. And the reason being, everything you use as an athlete translates into sales perfectly. A lot of people get sales mixed up and they're like, well, I don't like to sell. And I'll
Yeah.
be like, well, have you ever watched a movie and like told people it was really good and they should go watch it? And they're
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm like, congrats, you're in sales. Like every day you live, you're in sales. So I would tell an athlete to 100% try selling multiple different things, different industries, see what you're good at, and then stick with it. Athletes kill it in what we do. We're in financial services, and it's really cool because not only are they learning these skills for themselves, but now they can take this thing that actually adds value to somebody, go help that person and get compensated really well for it while still having like a team culture that we have here. So
Right.
I would tell an athlete, when it comes to starting a business, you could get into merch, you could get into the financial space, but sales in general is a great place to start.
Yeah, and there's a lot you can do with it.
Oh, absolutely. It's a skill that never goes away. Like I
Yeah.
tell everybody, don't build a title, build a skill set because once you have that skill, people are going to compensate you and want you around all the time simply because you can do something at a high level.
Yeah, I like that. So, as someone in the field of business and finance, how did you approach building Arena Transfer not just as a passion project, but also as a sustainable platform?
Yeah, so funny, a lot of trial and error. When I first started it, I was kind of just wanting to have a voice for a space that needed it. I had no idea how to monetize a business at that point. I was actually trying to build a marketing agency at the same time, and I was just really struggling with it. But it started out again, why I say, follow your passions a little bit. It started out as a passion, right? Like I realized there was a need. And if you're going to start a business helping the person you used to be. That's the easiest person to help. That's what I did. I started Arena Transfer to help the person I was 6 months prior to that.
Yeah.
Then, I realized just running a community can also be really hard to monetize unless you build and scale as hard as you can or you already have a brand. So I was struggling to actually make money doing that. I found, a huge passion for sales in the financial space. And I found the vehicle I have now. We're actually partnered with a brand called Enhanced Wealth. And it exploded everything we were doing because now we not only had the culture and we had the type of athletes in the brand already, but now we had a vehicle that could actually skyrocket their goals. Like I tell them, would you rather hop in a Honda Civic or a Ferrari if they were side by side? Like, what's your business vehicle going to be?
Yeah.
Just having the community was like the Honda Civic, but now having a vehicle that actually in a system and training that actually help people explode and build a skill, it helped us, man. I might have had like 10 or so people just in arena transfer at a base level. Our community was at like 115, but when we created that, we now have like over 60 agents, licensed and out there helping people. So it's just helped us monetize like crazy.
Yeah. That's crazy. How do you help athletes also balance their mental and physical well-being?
Yeah, current athletes or post sport athlete?
Post-sport.
Yeah, that's a great question. Again, I think it comes back to first helping athletes find their purpose. And then once they have their purpose, it's a lot easier to now start balancing these things because you'll realize when you get into something pretty deeply, those people, those like-minded people become your best friends. They become the people that you're around all the time. So, like when I show up to work every day, whether it's in Florida or I was just in Nashville, I'm literally with my best friends doing my work and hanging out with them. So I don't think any of us necessarily feel this need to like constantly be away from work,
Yeah.
but we still get that balance. I think, once you have your purpose after that, it's just building a schedule is key. You have to have time blocks. This is my time block to work out. This is my time block to be by myself. This is my work block. This is my unwind block. No matter what happens, that block is there for a reason and don't go out of those boundaries. So I think time blocking is really important. Another thing that we do is we actually audit the 5F, so faith, family, finance, fitness, fun. Every week we audit them like, hey, where are you on a scale from 1 to 5 in every category? Let's say, maybe fitness was at 5, but fun was at 2. Okay, how are you going to prioritize putting something fun in your schedule this week, non-negotiable? So just really being mindful of where you're spending your time and what does that balance look like?
Yeah. And sometimes we don't always see growth right away, right? There's that trial and error that you were kind of talking about. How do you help those post-sport athletes stay patient when they're growing their own business or platform?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I would say go back to what it took to become the athlete that you were. And I constantly reminding them of that. These people are the best in the game in college in the college and pro space, but they were at one point the 10-year-old that was trying to shoot a basketball or throw a football. So I think, foundationally, it's reminding an athlete, hey, you have the skills, but you're kind of that 10-year-old again for a little bit. Like you have to build that, you have to rewire your brain to think this way. But being patient in the process just comes back to knowing like, long term, this is going to work out. I'm 22, I'm 24. I have so much time to fail and mess up before, it actually matters. So really just reminding them like, we live in this society today where everybody tries to rush everything. There's 18-year-olds with Lamborghinis, there's 20-year-olds traveling the world. And it's like you only see the good. You can't get caught up in that because your journey's different. So just reminding them like, hey, this is your story. What's it going to be, right? You failed a million times in sports. How can you keep that same hunger and that same drive like you had when you were trying to go to college for your sport?
Yeah. So, how does your approach to nutrition change once you're no longer competing at a high level and even fitness too?
Yeah, yeah. You don't eat as much. Well, first off, I'm not near as hungry as I used to be. So that was a huge change. Again, I think the same concept of balance is even more important nutritionally when you're older because when you're playing, you're just trying to get enough calories in to maintain your body
Yeah.
while you're competing at that high of a level. Now it's more so, what are my base macros? What's my protein goal? Other than that, just kind of build around it. Some people, I'm never going to be someone that's like, you have to do intermittent fasting. You have to eat 8 meals a day. Like, you have to be carnivore. Figure out what works for your body and what feels good and just don't overdo it. Make sure you enjoy it. I probably eat ice cream 2 to 3 times a week, but that's like what I enjoy. Everything else is super healthy. So I think just especially girls struggle with that a lot, like just feeling like they can still eat. You can eat, trust me. I've actually eaten more lately and I've been losing weight. So like I think just making people aware of like be conscious of what you're eating in your macros, eat as organic and natural as possible. Other than that, enjoy yourself a little bit.
Yeah. So with all the work you do with arena transfer, what is your mental playbook that keeps you going?
Oh, I probably have to bring it back to faith. Like I really think that's what it all comes down to. My mental playbook is, like I said, number one, waking up every day intentionally with asking the question, God, what do you want from me today? Who do you want me to impact? What's this next phase of my journey like? Now knowing like that it's not on me whether I fail or I do great, as long as I do what I've been instructed to do, I know I'm going to be okay. So I think that's what keeps me so grounded. That's what helps me wake up with so much intention and ambition to be great. And then other than that, just being, other than just the plain gratitude, it's adding as much value to other people as possible, because I feel like that's what I myself and everybody else was meant to do, was truly add as much value as we can to other people. So I think if you come with from a place of gratitude but also wanting to add value to others, everything else seems to just kind of fill itself up. And as long as, again, keeping staying healthy, of course, but those two things are what keep me the most grounded for sure.
Yeah, I like that. So if you could go back and give your college athlete self one piece of advice, what would it be?
It would be to quit wasting your time partying and being dumb and like actually take life a little bit serious. But no, on a real note, it would probably be to just not take the sport itself so serious that I don't enjoy, anything else. I think I took, not that, you should be ambitious and you should have a single focus, but I took it to the max extreme, that when I went through depression, that I, had my massive peaks, it was all based on my performance in sport. And when I didn't have that, it destroyed me. So just not putting so much pressure on a game. One thing I'll say, I still train a lot of athletes, and when we're practicing or even business, and people get so beat up about missing a couple shots or not closing a call, and I'm like, think about this. You were blessed to be born in the best country in the world, and there's people out there fighting for their lives across the world that can't even get food today. Was that one missed shot or that one call that nobody else in this world saw, did it actually affect anything? And they're like, no. And I'm like, exactly. Quit putting so much pressure on everything. So that, long story short, I would tell my college self, quit putting so much pressure on your performance in a game that really doesn't even matter that much in the long run.
Yeah, yeah. So what do you hope the long-term impact of arena transfer will be for athletes across the country?
Yeah, I hope it's that, athletes realize their purpose is so much bigger than a sport, and they have every skill set that they need to go into the world and make the impact that they were put on earth to make. Um, Being an athlete was the foundation of creating who you are. It wasn't the end game. And when athletes start to realize that it was just the thing that set them up for their future, and they can go all in and take a risk and be willing to bet on themselves, I hope we can get millions of athletes to see themselves as that and not just an athlete.
Yeah. Do you have any personal work goals for the next few years?
Yeah, really just to expand our agency nationwide. We're in, gosh, I would say like 14 states right now. So number one, just expand into every state this year. and really, really tap into the athlete market as far as actually helping them. So many of these athletes are making a crazy amount of NIL right now, and they're really blowing it when they could change their life forever with it. So just truly making an impact on sports itself, giving the financial literacy that people need because we don't have it. We aren't taught that in school. And building a very, very massive agency that all these former athletes can come into and actually build a business to go change their life through.
Yeah.
So kind of vague, but those are the goals.
No, yeah, and it's nice to have a community there and ready for those athletes once they retire to just come to. Um,
Absolutely.
with your guidance, of course. So where can our listeners find more about what you do and join the arena transfer community?
Yeah. So, I mean, my social media is just at Sammy, Sammi Whiteman. Follow me on any of that. Arena Transfers is at Arena Transfer and then, or at the Arena Transfer. And then Enhanced Wealth is our primary partner. That's who we do all of our financial stuff through. So, Enhanced Wealth is also a pretty big brand. You can find them on Instagram, TikTok, whatever it may be. But yeah, again, DM Arena Transfer, DM me. Never be afraid to reach out if you're struggling, and we'd love to add as much value to you as we possibly can.
Yeah, awesome. And I'll tag those socials below. So my
Perfect.
last question for you is what matters most to you? The destination, the journey, or the company?
The company for sure. Um, like I said, I've done a million things from basketball to marketing to whatever, and every time I was unfulfilled, it was because I wasn't happy with either my circle or the culture, or the environment. So, just my mission now is to make sure that I have a circle that inspires me, but I'm also building a culture that people want to come be a part of. So I think people change everything. That's why everybody always says you become the 5 people you hang around the most. Make sure you constantly audit that because it will actually change your life.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Samantha, for joining me. To my listeners, mind strong, game on.